All right, strap in, everyone, because today we are diving headfirst into some serious Big Ten basketball action.
Oh, yeah.
We're talking Michigan State Spartans
versus Maryland Terrapins.
This is a matchup that could really shake things up in the Big Ten, wouldn't you say?
No doubt about it. We're talking two powerhouses with totally different approaches to the game. By the time we're done with this deep dive,
You'll be ready to drop some serious knowledge.
yeah, you'll not only be able to talk some serious shop about this game, but you'll get a real understanding of their strengths, weaknesses.
What makes each team tick?
And what might decide the winner on
Wednesday, February 26th,
2025
at the XFINITY Center,
in College Park, Maryland,
where the Terrapins will have
home court advantage
and a whole lot of momentum.
riding a 4-game winning streak.
Well, Michigan State comes in hot as well.
3 straight wins under their belt.
But we all know home court can be a real game changer, especially at a place like the XFINITY Center.
Oh, absolutely. Maryland's been tough to beat there, and that adds another layer of pressure for Michigan State. Not to mention, the odds makers have Maryland as the favorite.
They do, at -3.5.
With an over-under of 150.5, so...
Sounds like they're expecting a high-scoring affair.
Yeah, could be a real shootout. Speaking of scoring...
Let's look at the stats.
Maryland averages a blazing 83.7 points per game.
9th in the nation.
9th in all of college basketball. Michigan State's no slouch, though.
They clock in at a respectable 79 points a game.
But where Michigan State really shines is on defense. They've held opponents under 50% shooting in 14 games this season.
So it's going to be Maryland's explosive offense
against Michigan State's defensive wall.
Is this the unstoppable force meeting the immovable object?
Could be. And then there's a battle on the boards. Michigan State, they average 36.5 rebounds per game.
15th in the nation.
Maryland holds their own, though, at 34.7. But you got to think, even if Michigan State doesn't outscore Maryland, they can control those second-chance points.
Disrupt that offensive rhythm.
It's not just about scoring, it's about dictating the flow.
The pace of the game.
A real chess match on the court. And speaking of key players, we got to talk about Maryland's dynamic duo.
Freshman center Derik Queen.
And junior Julian Reese.
Forming an almost unstoppable front court.
They've been a force to be reckoned with.
Recording double-doubles in the same game.
For 4 consecutive games, that's more than any other duo in college basketball right now.
So how's Michigan State going to handle this? I mean, Derik Queen alone is averaging nearly a double-double. 15.9 points, 9.1 rebounds per game. He's on watch lists for major awards.
The Wooden Award?
Kareem Abdul-Jabbar Award.
That's where Michigan State's depth comes into play.
Right. Jaden Akins leads them with 13 points a game.
But they've got a really balanced roster, 6 players averaging at least 20 minutes. Can that team-oriented approach and defensive strength neutralize Maryland's star power?
That is the question. Let's go to the experts to see what they think.
All right, let's hear it.
Pick Dogs is putting their money on Maryland.
They're pointing to that home court advantage.
The size and talent of Queen and Reese.
Predicting a Maryland win with a Maring 3.5 spread, they think the Terps can overcome even Michigan State's tough defense. But then you have the CBS Sports model.
Leaning toward the under.
A combined score of 146.
Does that mean they're favoring Michigan State?
Not necessarily.
What do you think?
They're suggesting a tighter, more defensive game could play into Michigan State's hands, that ability to slow down the pace and grind out wins. Might not be a high-scoring affair.
It'll be a nail-biter.
No doubt. And to add another wrinkle,
Bleacher Nation also predicts a Maryland victory, 76-72. So 2 out of the 3 experts lean towards Maryland, but
different visions of how the game's going to play out.
one thing's for sure, this one's going to be close. It's going to come down to who can impose their style on the other.
Absolutely. A real clash of styles. What stands out to you the most about this matchup?
I think it's that contrast, that clash of styles. Can Michigan State's defense contain Maryland's high-octane offense? Or will the Terps' size and scoring power just be too much to handle? I guess we'll have to wait and see.
That's the beauty of it. It's anyone's game. Now, to really get a sense of what might happen, let's take a peek into the history books, see if the past can give us some clues.
I love digging into the history, so tell me, what does history say about this matchup?
Well, last season, on February 3rd, 2024, Michigan State actually won at home against Maryland.
63-54.
63-54. And that victory extended Michigan State's winning streak against Maryland
to 6 straight games.
6 straight games. So they've had Maryland's number lately, but remember...
So we're playing on Maryland's turf.
Right, and Pick Dogs pointed out that Maryland has won an impressive 13 straight games at the XFINITY Center.
So you have Michigan State's historical dominance against Maryland.
clashing with Maryland's home court advantage.
This is getting more and more interesting by the minute. To really understand where they stand today, we need to look at their performance in the Big Ten.
Yeah, where do they rank in the conference? How does this game fit into their overall goals for the season?
Let's dive into the Big Ten standings and see how these two teams stack up against their rivals.
Well, as of February 18th, Michigan State was sitting pretty in second place in the Big Ten.
With an 11-3 conference record.
Yeah, not bad at all in such a tough conference.
Second place is impressive. What about Maryland? Where do they stand?
They were tied for fifth.
With a 10-5 conference record.
So a few games back, but...
Still in the running for that top spot.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And those top spots are crucial, especially when you're talking about seeding for the tournaments.
The Big Ten tournament and the NCAA tournament.
Exactly. And both these teams, they've been ranked in the top 25 consistently this season.
On February 17th, Michigan State was ranked 14th in both the AP and the coaches' polls.
So they're not just good.
Consistently good.
How about Maryland's rankings?
Where do they fall?
A little bit higher, actually, number 20 in those same polls.
But rankings are just one piece of the puzzle. What about those net rankings? Those can really make or break a team's tournament hopes.
Oh, yeah, net rankings. Can't forget about those.
So where do Michigan State and Maryland land in the net rankings?
Michigan State was sitting at 21st. Pretty respectable.
As of February 17th?
While Maryland was even higher at 14th. So even though Michigan State's got a slight edge in the conference standings,
Maryland has the better net ranking.
yeah, it's interesting how these different metrics can sometimes tell different stories.
They paint slightly different pictures.
Speaking of different pictures, what about those KenPom ratings?
Another important metric for evaluating teams. Where do they stand there?
Maryland's again slightly ahead.
Okay.
14th compared to Michigan State at 17th. This was as of February 18th.
So pretty evenly matched when you look at the big picture.
Yeah, it's going to be a close one. But beyond the rankings, what about those stats that might give us a glimpse into how this game is going to unfold?
Right. Beyond those rankings, what are those key stats?
Remember how we talked about Michigan State's defense being their strong suit?
Yeah, their defensive dominance. What was it? They held opponents under 50% shooting in
14 games this season.
14 games.
Yeah, in those games,
Yeah.
they have a 12-2 record.
That is impressive.
It really speaks to their defensive tenacity. But we also know that Maryland's got a pretty potent offense.
Yeah, Maryland's offense. Any stats that jump out about their scoring ability?
Well, their starters once combined for 95 points in a single game.
Oh, yeah.
95 points. That speaks volumes about their offensive firepower.
Multiple scoring threats.
Yeah, absolutely. But can they control the boards, especially against a team like Michigan State that's known for their rebounding?
That's the question.
Well, we can't forget about Maryland's dynamic duo, Julian Reese and Derik Queen.
Right.
They've been racking up those double-doubles
Recording them in the same game.
for 4 consecutive games. That's more than any other duo in college basketball right now.
So they're not just scoring.
They're cleaning up on the glass, too.
It seems like Maryland has an answer for everything Michigan State can throw at them.
On paper, maybe. But Michigan State's got a history of exceeding expectations, pulling off upsets. They've got that grit, that never-give-up attitude. Could disrupt Maryland's rhythm.
It all comes down to who shows up ready to play on Wednesday night.
Absolutely, who executes their game plan. Speaking of performance, let's dive a bit deeper into each team's specific strengths and weaknesses.
I'm all for it. What can you tell us about their performances throughout the season, both in conference and non-conference? What can we learn?
Well, one of our sources highlighted how Michigan State's been exceptional on the road this season within the Big Ten. They've secured the most conference road wins
Since their 2019-20 team.
Yeah, which is a pretty remarkable achievement.
So they're not intimidated by playing in hostile environments.
No.
Could be a major advantage at Maryland.
Could be. Now, turning to Maryland, their conference performance has been solid as well. Bouncing back from tough losses, showing resilience.
That mental toughness is so important in the Big Ten.
Yeah, you got to have it. What about their non-conference performance? Any statement wins outside of the Big Ten for either team?
Do they play anyone tough?
Interestingly, one of our sources noted that the Big Ten as a whole had a really strong non-conference record this season.
So battle-tested before conference play even started.
Exactly. They've already faced some tough competition, preparing them for the intensity of a game like this.
And the challenges of March Madness.
Yeah, got to be ready for March. Speaking of March Madness, how crucial is this game for their seeding and their potential postseason success?
Yeah, how important is this game?
Well, remember, both teams have already clinched spots in the 2025 Big Ten men's basketball tournament.
Right, so they're both in.
But the outcome of this game affects their seeding.
So it does affect their seeding.
Absolutely. The higher they finish in the conference, the better their seed in the tournament.
And a good seed in the Big Ten tournament often translates to a good seed in the NCAA tournament.
You got it. So the stakes are high. A win here could mean the difference between a favorable first-round matchup and a really tough one.
In both tournaments.
Exactly. So we've established both teams are highly ranked, strong conference records.
Looking to secure a good seed for the postseason.
But what about the guys who will be taking the court?
Yeah. Let's talk about the players. The key players, the unsung heroes, the X factors.
All right, let's break it down, starting with Michigan State.
Who are we watching on the Spartan side?
Yeah, got to keep an eye on Jaden Akins, their lighting scorer.
Averaging 13 points a game.
But he's more than just a scorer.
Yeah, I've heard he's a lockdown defender.
Oh, yeah. Known for his quick hands, disrupting passing lanes, averaging 1.5 steals per game. Not easy to do in the Big Ten.
Try to slow down Maryland's offense. That's going to be crucial.
Absolutely. What about Michigan State's point guard?
Who do they have running the point?
Jeremy Fears Jr., averaging 5.8 assists.
Leading the team in assists.
But here's what's impressive.
Okay.
He's doing that while shooting 35% from three-point range.
Yeah, so he's not just dishing it out.
He can knock down shots, too.
That's a tough combination to guard.
No doubt. And let's not forget about their rising star, Jace Richardson.
Big Ten Freshman of the Week.
That's right. He's been averaging 10.8 points per game and has been a key contributor to their success.
So Michigan State, they have a really solid core of experienced players and young talent like Richardson.
A good mix. But let's shift our focus to Maryland now.
Okay, let's talk Terps.
We've talked about Queen and Reese, that dynamic duo.
Yeah. Who else should we be watching out for?
Well, one player that stands out is Jacoby Gillespie, the veteran guard.
Averaging, 14.9 points a game?
14.9 points and a team-high 4.8 assists.
So he's a playmaker.
Creates scoring opportunities for himself and his teammates.
And I heard he's a threat from three-point range as well.
Oh, yeah. Shooting a respectable 37.6% from beyond the arc, so he's a versatile weapon.
So you have the power of Queen and Reese combined with the experience and leadership of Gillespie. That's a tough combo to beat.
For sure. But remember, Michigan State has that depth, that knack for making things difficult. It'll come down to execution.
A battle of strategy as much as talent.
Absolutely. Before we wrap things up, we need to look at those expert predictions a little closer.
Yeah, let's see what those experts are saying, what insights we can glean from their analysis. So let's recap those expert predictions. Pick dogs giving the edge to Maryland, mainly because of that home court advantage.
And the dominance of Queen and Reese.
Yeah, that front court duo.
Predicting a Maryland win, Manective 3.5 spread.
So they really think Maryland can overcome that Michigan State defense.
Yeah, they think they have the firepower to do it. Then you have the CBS Sports model.
Leaning towards the under, 146 points.
Suggesting a much tighter, lower-scoring game.
So are they favoring Michigan State then?
Not necessarily. They're just forecasting a defensive battle, which, could play into Michigan State's hands.
Right. They're known for grinding out those wins, disrupting the flow.
Exactly. So two contrasting predictions there, one favoring Maryland's offense, the other a defensive slugfest.
What about Bleacher Nation? What's their take?
Bleacher Nation also predicting a Maryland victory.
But a closer game.
76-72.
Yeah.
So 2 out of 3 experts picking Maryland, but different levels of confidence, you could say.
Yeah. Seems like the consensus is Maryland has a slight edge, but Michigan State's more than capable of pulling off the upset.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's going to be a fascinating game to watch. Both teams have distinct strengths, and it's going to come down to who can impose their style of play.
We've analyzed the stats, the rankings, the historical context, the prediction.
They've covered a lot of ground.
One more thing I want to touch on, the energy of the crowd.
The XFINITY Center.
It's going to be loud. It's going to be intense.
Especially for a big game like this.
Do you think that could affect Michigan State, or especially some of those younger players?
It's definitely possible. A rowdy crowd can rattle even the most seasoned veterans. But Michigan State's shown they can handle playing on the road this year.
So we'll see how they handle that atmosphere in College Park.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting.
So we've really broken down the strengths, weaknesses, potential X factors for both teams. I'm going to pose one final question to our listeners out there.
All right, hit them with.
Maryland, explosive offense, home court advantage. Michigan State, defensive tenacity, remarkable depth. What do you think is going to be the deciding factor? Maryland's star power, Michigan State's strategy, or something else entirely?
It's what makes sports so great, right? You never know what's going to happen.
Couldn't have said it better myself. To all our listeners out there, make sure you tune in on Wednesday night.
Epic showdown between the Spartans and the Terrapins.
You won't want to miss it.
And as always,
Happy watching.